Welcome back to Two Homers and a Realist. This is the post-game pod following the big victory against Alabama. The Sooners win. They're bowl eligible. I'm excited. This is awesome. We weren't going to pod until Sunday, but by God, we won the game. So here we are tonight, late at night. It's like 11:30. I'm Steve.
I'm Connor.
Lucas.
Jay.
Guys, we talk a lot about Little Debbie and what Little Debbie does for us, and the fact that we consume a lot of Little Debbie when we're drowning our sorrows. Tonight, it's celebration time. We're gonna share these. I've got cosmic brownies inside. I should have brought those out. We got the little Christmas tree cakes. Thank you to Little Debbie for their sponsorship. It's been a rough season, but it's had its highs, and tonight is one of them for sure.
So sweet.
I think it's so beautiful. I mentioned this earlier to Connor. This, to me, is eerily similar in look and feel and everything. Temperature, the air, the late night game, the surprising performance to the 2022 game against Oklahoma State, where we just dominated, jumped out to a lead, an earlier lead in that game than we had tonight, but still jumped out to the lead and then kind of had to just hold on and did what we needed to do to hold on. This was a cleaner and much bigger victory for sure, but it rang very similar to me. I don't know if you guys had similar vibes off that or what you might compare it to.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good one. 2022, we went in as well with a pretty big atmosphere, like a game that we really needed to have. And that was OSU though. Definitely kind of some blind optimism, I think, going into this game. That game, it's like, all right, little brother's coming to town.
We're gonna win.
We're gonna win. But
no, in terms of
the way that we needed it and how we did it, yeah, extremely similar.
But with the victory, it was just like the Sugar Bowl against Alabama.
Yeah.
And we're putting it together and we're making it happen. That was a game of offense surprising us. This was a game of offense surprising us some. Offense was very effective, which we've been longing for, but the defense was stellar. The defense showed us how great the OU defense is. Lots to be proud of.
And we'll get into it, but I mean, something to think about as we get going and stuff. This was a well-coached football game. Like between the game plan, the to-itness of the game plan, it was just, and then you get into the third and fourth quarter, we're using clock. It's like, all right, we know what position we're in and we're going to defend it. And I don't know, it's just, this is what we've been asking for. So I don't know, Jay, Lucas, what do you guys think?
Well, you wonder how the defense would have looked the whole season, even though it looked well, if we had this kind of complementary offense. Right. Because as dominant as we have been, and I do think we've had a dominant season, giving the lack of production on offense. Just what could have been with almost a simpler game plan.
Controlled it. We controlled the game. I mean, it's just
absolutely
crazy.
I mean, we bullied Alabama on both sides of the ball.
We really did.
And I don't think we would have ever predicted that going in because we all had, I mean, Bama in the 20s at least, right? And
3 points.
3 points is incredible. And that 3 points that they got was they had a 3rd and 16 down on like their own 20 or something like that when they completed it. And then they had a 3rd, and I want to say 9 on like our 30 or somewhere around there that they completed, or else this is a shutout.
Yeah.
I mean,
as electric as they are, we shut all of that down.
Yeah.
We didn't, the deep threat, the breakaway threat, Williams and all the magic he can bring, it didn't happen for him.
Yeah.
We had an answer for everything that they tried to
run
throw
at all against us.
He couldn't run. He looked remarkably inept when he went to run. We spied him perfectly. I was more than thrilled with that. Tackling was great.
I mean, I can only think of maybe 2 plays that I remember that were just missed tackles, honestly, other than maybe not getting to him when we collapsed the pocket on him. And he was
that's how good
he was able to get a throw off.
And that's how good he is.
And not get sacked. But there was, I mean, when he went out on his own trying to scramble, he got tackled. He wasn't getting more than 2 or 3 yards. And we're talking like true freshman Eli Bowen out there standing up against great receivers,
player of the game,
and making great tackles against a very elusive running or quarterback.
And he, be it the game plan, the prep, knowing their offense, getting us in the right defense, or just a guy making a great play on a ball, he actually almost overplayed the interception.
Yeah.
Where he was in the backfield too quickly and too far,
Almost
overran the play. It was phenomenal.
Since that was a wide receiver screen he was supposed to be blocked by one wide receiver, so they could pass it to the guy behind and go past him, and he just juked that guy out. And then instead of going to make the tackle, he just got a hand on the ball and made this pirouette interception play and took off running. I mean, that was
keeping the ball in his hands.
He's so damn good.
He's amazing.
And guess what? We scored a touchdown after that.
I can't imagine having this season him on one side and Gentry on the other.
Yeah.
Oh, that would have been incredible. And then Dolby out there on your other passing downs.
Yeah, that's Malone played well tonight, though.
But you look at next year, and I mean, we have what you just talked about.
You're losing Billy, and you're probably gonna put Peyton Bowen back there.
Yep. Who played a lot last year.
Yeah. And then you're losing Danny, but if you run
Kobe and Kip
together, I mean, you shouldn't miss. I mean, you're gonna lose a little bit of leadership maybe with Danny, and
you're gonna
Kobe
lose
and Kip either one are as big as Danny, but they're faster than him. So I don't know if they'll be able to come up well. McKenzie can definitely hit as well.
Ethan Downs is such a solid player.
Yeah.
He's gonna be hard to replace.
But then everybody else is.
But then you got PJ. I mean, hopefully PJ steps into that.
McCullough had his moments
And
today.
Dominic Williams hasn't made a decision, or he hasn't told anybody.
Does he have another year left?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
McCullough played well today.
Yeah.
I mean, when he was in there, he did his job.
Well, the Dominic Wilkins would be right, huh?
Dominic Wilkins.
That'd be amazing if he could come back.
He probably has eligibility left for football, not for basketball.
Not for basketball. Williams. It would be very prototypical of what Brent Venables has been able to do to get a guy to come back.
At Clemson.
That was always what he was able to do. And I'm not saying I want what's best for him, and I also want what's best for OU, but I would hate to think that anyone would steer him towards a decision that wasn't best for him. But it very well may be in his best interest to come back, with the fact that he's had a good season, but he's not going to be an All-American. He's not going to be as good as he was last year, at least in terms of notoriety. So if he could come back, the strength of that defensive line and what we saw tonight, it is. I didn't notice or look to notice enough, but I didn't see a lot of crazy blitz schemes. I didn't see a whole lot of real deceptive stuff.
Yeah.
It was just kind of straightforward football, and we dominated.
Mm-hmm.
We took care of, and that's the strength of the Alabama team.
They had no answer for
Jaden Jackson.
Anyone in tier, but specifically on the outside. I mean, Ford too.
Ford played
they between
Ford
him and Mason Thomas, they had
so well.
The edges were they were torched.
Woody had an interception. I mean, who on defense didn't play well today?
Right.
I mean, the only time that I was ever complaining, again, I told Shelby this on the way back, it was like, I'm picking out things and frustrated with stuff, but there were only a few plays here. Yeah. And it was just the busted zone over the middle of the field.
Yeah.
I mean,
but I mean,
safety's not coming down fast enough.
You assume some things to a great offense.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
It's going to happen. Exactly.
And
we held them to 3 points.
It's been the first time in 13 years, I believe, they've been held to no touchdowns. And they didn't really threaten, a few times, a few moments, but it's not like, I mean, in the interceptions we had, it's not like lucky breaks went our way. It's not like weird stuff happened.
We were making plays on the ball.
We had the weird turnover with Tatum just giving the ball up, which is
I mean, he got smoked on that play. So,
but he got hit in the back.
He got hit in the back. That's the second, third time.
He had the ball in his right arm, and he got smoked like in the left kidney and knocked out.
I mean, it's happened several times.
He didn't play again the rest after that.
He didn't step on the field.
But our best running back, the best running back on this team, we're finally seeing him, Xavier Robbins.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, like, man, wonder what Caleb Hicks looks like.
Yeah, let's get him in. He's the next.
I mean, the further we go down the depth chart, the better the player gets.
Yeah.
We
did backwards
Let's put our sixth running back in and see how good he is.
What's going on, DeMarco? With good plays, bad plays, transitioning more to the offense like you're doing. Bauer Sharp was instrumental in a good way in several occasions. He was instrumentally bad in at least one where him and Thompson mess up the semi-trick play that would have been a sure touchdown.
Well, what's frustrating is like that play is drawn up for those two guys.
Yeah.
Like it's their play.
Yeah.
And neither of them did what they should have
Johnson
done.
doesn't throw it well. The wind takes the ball also, and then Sharp.
I don't know
can't
how much
readjust
wind
the
was
ball.
there down on the field.
That
You
ball,
were almost on the field, Dave. How much wind was there?
Not very much.
There may have
Not
just
very
been, but there may have been some draw to his throw if he's jump passing and
I mean, either way, he threw it.
It was a bad throw.
The ball wasn't where it needed
No,
to
it was
be.
a bad
it was a bad
but it
throw,
was
but he was able to
catchable.
get his hands on it and didn't catch it. So
Yeah.
it was bad on both.
like being
It
a
was.
like being
It
a
was.
being a.
And what's
And then when you miss a field goal, that was literally
Yeah.
a 7-point
Well,
swing.
it would
And
just
if you
it felt
look
like
back-
this same story.
yeah, absolutely. I
Same
think
story.
all of us had the exact same reaction in our guts. It's like that's how we lose football games. If you were going to win this football game, you had to have those things work for you. And I really looked at that as we're going to look back and say, wow, we were so close to them early on, and we end up losing in 35-7 fashion.
Yeah.
But we didn't. We didn't. We got it together, and that was kind of the end of the line for mistakes. You look at what we did in terms of bad, just stupid penalties, didn't happen.
No, discipline as well.
Discipline was great. And just like holding. How did we get by with no holding? Maybe there was one or two missed. I'm sure an Alabama fan could tell us all
I mean,
about
We
it.
didn't throw it enough.
Hester on the
That's true.
edge blocking.
Yeah.
Nolan pointed out a couple times, like, I can't believe they didn't call holding on that. But then when I watched the replay,
His hands are on the
he was
inside.
his hands were on the inside, and
Yeah.
he was letting him go before he'd come around behind him and just started pushing towards the sideline.
Yeah.
And you can't block it up any better than that. That's exactly what you want to do.
Had several key blocks. He picked up blocks out of the backfield really nicely.
Speaking of blocking, let's talk about Gavin Sawchuk, the fullback.
Yeah.
How many plays did we see the two of them in there? And it was well designed to where
Yes.
they would have a tight end come in motion, Sharp usually, and you'd have Sharp leading with Sawchuk leading behind him, and then Robinson was able to pick and choose which lane he wanted to go after that. And we had a really well-designed play on the 40-yard run where Sharp came in motion from right to left, and then he stopped right after he passed the center. They snapped the ball, and he cut back and followed in between the center and the right guard.
Well designed.
And became a fullback and blocked it, and Robinson just takes off behind him and has a huge game. Whereas instead of running Sharp from right side to all the way around the left tackle while the left tackle is pulling and he's supposed to block a defensive end,
to go miss the block on
have
the end
him
or a
blocking
DB.
the second level against a linebacker like a fullback,
Where he can set up
It's face
and
to
see
face,
him.
and
yeah.
it was beautiful.
It was so beautiful. It gave me a
We've been
lot of
talking
hope.
about that all season. The
Yeah.
lack of a H-back / fullback, and running in the middle instead of trying to bring them all the way across from
Well,
like a
here's
slot
my
position.
And we're really hard. We've been really hard on Sharp all season, and he's deserved a lot of it. And there is some hope though. He's athletic, and he's got the size,
he's super athletic.
and he's a converted quarterback. He hasn't played tight end very long, and it's maybe one more
A good
off season
coach-
we could see a totally
A good
different.
coach could do that.
We could see a totally different tight end next year.
Well, I'll say to get into some of that, which I'm going to take as Homer optimism, and I think it's well placed. You look at a very young offensive line we put out there today, and they played very effectively. You look at the fact that now we are with stumbles and hit and miss, but now is it 3 games into the Joe John Finley, 4 games into the Joe John Finley? And I'm not saying Joe John Finley is the offensive coordinator, but it lets you see that with a little bit of, I'm even going to call it competency around what we have to work with, how much more effective we could be. Had Joe John had the job the whole way through, I'm not saying it'd be a better world. I think our record would be better. We might have produced something that was a lot more effective because it was effective offense today, which allowed our defense to win us a football game.
And when Levy left, his suggestion was Joe John Finley.
It's true.
His play caller.
That's true. And I don't think it was dishonest because it was his friend. I think it was an honest bet. So, not to get into something that's probably more of a midweek topic, but that'll be interesting to see which of these coaches keep their jobs. And Joe John his stock might be going up. I don't know. It just depends on who the EC is and who he brings.
I don't think so.
I would say
I
that
can see
DeMarco's stock is falling.
There's a chance that the incoming coach could let him stay on as tight end coach.
Right.
I don't think
Yeah.
we want to see it.
Well, that's the thing.
I'm not saying co-OC.
He could stay. He could keep the title for money.
You may or may not. I don't know. You might go down.
Depending on who the
I was
other
thinking it might be a
OC,
demotion.
Yeah, I bet it'd be a demotion.
depending on who the other OC wanted to bring in or
Right.
not bring in.
Right.
But regardless, I'm just getting at the fact that I think that I don't know why the camera keeps doing this thing where it doesn't like what I have to say, but I saw a lot of things to be optimistic about with what we were doing tonight. And I don't know how you couldn't be optimistic with the fact that you go out and you beat a top 10 team, a playoff contender who we knocked out of the playoff probably tonight with a completely dominant performance. And we
On
knew the
both
defense
sides.
was good, but the defense proved yet again how absolutely excellent they are. We know how tough a schedule we played all year, but we definitely saw out of the offense something that was effective, glimmers of hope, things we can do. And if I'm marketing us to an OC, which it doesn't sound like we're going to have any trouble because we've got them lined up from here all the way to the wall, Rio Grande or the Gulf of Mexico or something, Brent said. We're going to be able to say, look, here's the talent you've got to work with right now. And that's also something you parlay into all these other guys.
We legitimately can say we were down 10 offensive starters. 10.
Yeah.
Jackson Arnold was the only starter
Wow.
on offense tonight.
That's
Well,
phenomenal.
Everett would have been the starter going into the season over Hickman
Yeah, but he wasn't.
because he was injured.
But it wasn't.
I mean,
yeah.
he was still the planned
Okay,
starter.
So 9,
9.
10 with an asterisk.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I mean, that's nobody in the country can
You lose
claim
your sixth
anything
receiver
close
today.
to that.
Yeah. Yeah. You
Right.
lose your
You
sixth
lose
receiver.
Thompson, your sixth
nobody-
receiver was that second quarter.
And nobody has beat the number 7
Nobody,
team in the
no,
country
nobody had a victory
down 10 starters
like that. Yeah,
on
absolutely.
one side of the football.
Yeah, no, not.
It really
anywhere
is.
close.
It really is pretty wild.
Super wild. A lot to be proud of. Really cool. I tell you, it's not a surprise to me. I knew we were going to win. Here's how I knew. Here's how I know I knew we were going to win. So when I'm setting all this up this morning, getting ready for a fun day, and we had a great day. It was a great day. Your soccer team won.
My
4-0.
soccer
Go
team won.
Spurs.
Your soccer team won.
You get a win. You get a win.
It was wins all around. We had so much fun. It was perfect weather. Yet another wonderful, wonderful weather day for us. Just a great time. When I'm setting it all
in the
up,
house.
as you know, as I mentioned at the start of the pod, we were planning on doing this Sunday. It's late at night. We thought we're going to lose to Alabama. We'll come back and do the post game on Sunday. So when I'm setting everything up, I got the extension cord, and I thought, you know what? I'm over here. I'm going to go ahead and plug it in because if we do the pod tonight, it'll save me a step. It'll actually cost me a step because we would be doing the pod tomorrow under the pergola, completely different part of the yard.
Studio number 2.
Studio number 2. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to set it up here in studio number 1 because I don't know. I just got this feeling. I think it's going to happen. Sure enough, by God, it happened. It's amazing. It's going to be something I think we look back on for a long time.
Oh, it's a core memory. I mean,
It's a great memory.
it's our third highest ranked win ever in Norman.
Tremendous.
Crazy.
That's incredible. That's really
Wild.
crazy.
So what, Nebraska 2000 and what's it?
Texas Tech 08
That's ever?
ever.
Oh,
Nebraska's never come
We
to
didn't beat a
town.
top 7 team in the 100 years before that?
Well,
Maybe it was since 2000. I don't know. They put it on the video screen.
let's think about that though, because it would only be Nebraska.
Mhm.
No other Big 8 team was ever that good.
Well, Kansas got up there for a while in the 70s
I don't think
or
so.
late 60s, like the
They had,
Bears teams.
Like I
They got
don't
the
think
top
there was.
5, didn't they?
I don't think so.
Maybe it was the last. Maybe it was the last 20, or maybe it was since 2000.
Well, they
I don't know.
probably
might have been
beat
since
us.
2000.
They probably beat us though then too. We were bad in the 60s, and Texas was always
Well,
in
there
Texas.
Well, Notre Dame beat us.
So we didn't
Back
win
in the
that.
day, right?
Yeah, and we beat them one time, and I don't think they were top 5. I don't know. That's a great. It'd be good to look at that, but I tell you what, even if there's some, it's going to be just a handful.
Yeah.
Now that kind of gets to something interesting to talk about. The students and others stormed the field. Embarrassingly, I would say, and embarrassingly stormed the field
That's
early.
humiliating. Super humiliating.
It was frustrating. I get the sentiment. I understand, and maybe that just speaks to I'm an old timer and I've seen a lot of stuff, and maybe I need to just allow them to celebrate a win that's worth celebrating.
It was Big 12.
It was a big win. But it does feel like it's. I mean,
For those students, though, They
We've been
haven't
through some tough
experienced
I always
times.
kind of think that
They
too.
haven't
If
experienced.
you're a
I don't
senior-
care about the storm, the storm in the field.
Yeah,
About the
It's
timing
being
of it.
idiots and not knowing when to do it.
that was-
Somebody,
Like it's complete ignorance.
you think you saw that the security guards
Yeah,
at
so
28
yeah.
seconds moved out of the way,
Yes.
and that allowed people to pour into the.
And Ava may have a
Field.
better view, but it looked like they had those people in yellow blocking all of the tunnels. And then when I see people start running on, all those people had moved out of the way. So-
Just absolute ignorance, because those aren't students. Because the first ones on the field were out of the south end zone.
Yep.
And I don't know what they're thinking. I mean, it clearly was a timeout. They're not going to just run the clock off. Have you ever watched a football game? So it's very frustrating there. And fortunately, it couldn't have cost us. Had it been a 7-point game, it could have. They could have marched us backwards, called their timeout, got the penalty.
For
And
those
who
of you
knows?
like that didn't see, that happened at Arizona State today.
Did they call a penalty at Arizona State? Because they didn't. I'm surprised they didn't call a penalty here.
Oh, I'm shocked they didn't call a penalty on.
They didn't. They should have,
Yeah,
but they did not. But they were still in Hail Mary range,
right.
Because they left 1 second on the.
And they threw
Well-
they threw 2 Hail Marys.
I'll make a snide remark. I'm glad we have saved as much money as we saved all year on not paying any groundskeepers or fertilizer or for paint,
Yep.
because that crappy field did 2 things for us today. One, we saved all that money, which is going to help pay the penalty that they're going to assess on us of probably, I don't know, $250,000
I think it's
plus.
250. Yeah, it's 250. I think.
And then that crappy field got us some tackles
Slowed
today.
Milroe down.
It slowed them down.
Yep, he
They
slipped a
slipped
couple
and
times, yeah.
slided all over. Very frustrating there, but I will give some praise. I thought that the stadium sound system, the timing, the choice of things to do was much, much better. We weren't getting just inundated with noise. We weren't getting screamed at by the angry young man.
So the one game I don't go to.
The one game,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was-
Yeah, he was only on the screen like 3
It was
times.
literally like they read our surveys
Yeah.
after every game that we fill out.
Or they've
in
been
the
listening
email,
to the pod.
or they've been listening to the pod.
It also makes it a lot more manageable, and maybe we don't nitpick it as much when we're winning. Like I'm not as pissed off in between.
I don't.
in
I'm
between
not. I
plays.
don't think so. I
But-
think it's. I would have.
I know it was
noticed
it was
being
definitely better.
I
It was
think.
definitely better.
Now I thought you were going to go with the angle of when we're winning, they don't feel compelled to have to supplement and counterbalance.
Maybe that too.
I don't know, but they did a good job. Good job for them. They did a much better. It wasn't perfect. Much better job. I love it. It's like it's setting us up for better things in the future there too. So very happy about that.
Now getting in was a different story.
Getting in was a joke. Typical joke.
There weren't as many gates open as there was at least one less gate on the north end than there has been from the other games.
There were
They're the
Alabama
same-
fans in line with us complaining.
They're the
Yeah.
same number of gates on the west side and the same miserable inadequacy that there always is there. I mean, the metal detectors are stupid. It is security theater. I didn't take anything out of my pockets. I walked right through. The woman in front of me beeps like crazy. I beep like crazy. We just keep walking. Let's end this charade. We
Take a
didn't.
machete next time.
We did. I took a machete.
Oh.
I was had that
Well,
today.
the one guy in front of me took a pocket knife and was dumb enough to put it in the basket, and they confiscated it.
So
That's
I
what you
just
get for following rules.
Exactly.
we didn't go through that at Missouri. We don't go through that other places. They don't have the metal detectors. It's not necessary. You could open more gates. It could be a better experience. Couple other things to be. One thing to be critical, which would be clock management. I thought we did a lot better, but we weren't perfect.
Now there was a time, I don't know when I texted you guys. It was either real late third. I'm pretty sure it was fourth, but we were still snapping the football with
10 to
15
15
seconds.
seconds,
It made no sense.
Yeah.
We knew what we were doing. The
It
only way
it was
for
only a
them-
couple times.
Yeah, but it was
after they got
it was
this one
several.
first down, they immediately started snapping it inside of like
Yeah.
7.
it was still there's no reason not to do it though.
Absolutely.
There's no
Every single time.
every single second count.
Yeah.
You're for all we knew we were hanging on to a win because you just never know how our games are going to go.
Yeah, I didn't trust we were going to win until about 6 minutes left.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
So
Absolutely.
you have to waste every second you can waste.
Yeah, they could have been better. They weren't. They were. I tell you one thing they did. They were 80% really good, and they did a really good job of managing timeouts. We had a couple of situations I was scared they were going to burn a timeout. We didn't need to lose, and they didn't.
What did you think about the punt
And we
in the
hiked the
fourth
ball.
quarter when they did use a timeout? And I thought they were going to do the pooch punt. It was fourth and
Oh, when we moved?
it was like 3rd and 2, and then they rolled Jackson out, and he loses 3 yards.
Yeah.
I don't know why they didn't get under center and hand it off to Robinson,
Which we did go
which
under
they
center
finally did,
one time tonight.
and it worked.
It worked
perfectly.
great.
Yeah, it was like 3rd and 1 or whatever, and he gets 3 yards.
Yeah, I was
And so I
very
thought for
happy
sure
with
on this
that.
3rd and 2 we would do that again, and we didn't.
Right.
Instead, Jackson rolled out, got sacked, and lost 3 yards, and it's 4th and 5, and then we left the offense on the field for a minute. And I thought they're going to either try to draw them off sides and then take the delay because
Right.
I want to say we were on Bama's 38-ish.
Yeah.
It was a little too far for field goal range because it would have been, I think it was going to be a 56-yard. So
Yeah, no, we were in the 40 something. We are like right.
Well, then we
Or
but then
52,
and then
I think it was-
we ended up getting a false start.
Yeah, we
at
got a
the
false
end.
we ended up
start
getting a
and
false
moved it
start
back,
and
yeah.
then punted.
Uh-huh.
But we got the false start with the punt
with
team
the
out
punt
there.
team.
Right.
But I thought they were going to do the Jackson pooch kick, which would have been perfect.
I thought it would have been perfect too.
But
Yeah.
then we burned the timeout. Or did we use the timeout there and then get the delay game?
No, I don't think
No, we
so.
sent the punt team out there and he just
They got a delay game out
and
of
then
the
we got a delay.
timeout.
But
We
then
didn't.
he punts it, and the idiot, was it Williams?
Well, I can tell you why. I don't know, maybe you guys couldn't see it. He was off to the side.
Yeah, he didn't vacate
The
the
ball,
area.
no, but the ball bounced.
Sounds right.
and
Out.
The ball
Right.
landed over here, and the trajectory went at like a
Right
45
at him.
degree angle right at him. And I think he just,
Either it's
I don't know if
either
he
it's
could
gonna
get
hit
out of the
me,
way. Yeah, it might have.
because it would
might
have
have
rolled out of the
nicked
end.
him.
It would have been in
Yeah.
the end zone.
So
for
he's
sure.
thinking,
I think he
I
thought.
better catch it because it's going to touch me.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think he would have thought it was going to bounce off of
And I
him.
gave them the ball 2, which was awesome for us.
Yeah.
Well, I turned to Max and told him what's unfortunate about that situation is that down and distance, if you had a good offense, you'd be going for it every time because that's just an automatic decision. But unfortunately, we're not there yet.
Some of the pooch
third-
punt is underutilized.
It's underutilized.
We've done it once this year, which was incredible.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought for sure the 3rd and 2 we would be intelligent and just run the ball, but we didn't.
Yeah.
Straight north south.
Well, where the pooch punt really is effective is if you can give the quarterback an option to say, look, this is your read, and if it's open, you run the play. If
Yeah.
it's not, you pooch that.
No,
punt.
hell no. You just
Kinda like you do
you
with
just
punt.
tell him what to do.
I know. I
Don't be
know.
putting that on his plate.
I know. That's why I'm saying you couldn't have done it. So let's talk about the run pass ratio because that was really, really good. I felt like that was what we had called for. What was it, like 80-20, if even that?
So we ran 50 and threw 15.
We threw 12,
Well,
11 from the quarterback.
I called for 70-30, so we're going to be kind of close to that.
And I think I'm on pod. I said I want to see like 15 or 17 passes total, and he threw 11.
11.
I mean, that's fantastic
it'd be 80-20.
to be able to move the ball
72 plays,
without passing.
50 run.
It's the way to go. And, if
That's
you've got to do
crazy.
something a little more, I don't want to call it to be derogatory, gimmicky, but if you need to do something in your scheme to set up for 80-20 and they know 80-20 is coming, let's do it. Another thing that we criticized was choosing Jackson Arnold when you know you're going to be 80-20, but it worked.
What I'm not quite sure about is Bama never quite changed their defense for the fact that we were going 80.
No,
Like, I don't know if they were just
Maybe that
worried about one
Maybe
over
that-
the top.
Yeah.
Maybe
throw,
that
but-
was it. Maybe they thought Jackson Arnold's enough of a threat, and that's why Jackson Arnold's the right decision strategically to keep them honest, whereas they don't think Michael Hawkins. Because I think if you put Michael Hawkins in, you got to throw a few more times than you would with Arnold. So maybe
think they thought they were
it's
gonna
hard to
be
argue
able
with its success.
yeah, and I think they walked in thinking, OU's not very good. We can run basically whatever scheme we want, and we'll
This
be
is it.
fine. And we're not going to make adjustments. It's going to work at some point, and it didn't.
Well, we're talking about how happy we are with what the offense did, but when you go back and look at it, we scored 24 points. We had a defensive touchdown, and then the Eli Bowen when he gets tackled on like 10,
Yeah,
we punch
12,
it, and we punch it in there. That's 14 of the 24.
I know.
So really, you only had one legit drive that ended in points other than the field goal. And then you had the missed field goal that should have been a touchdown. And then you had the fumble on the 20. So
That would have at least been 3.
you probably should have scored on offense 17 to 21 points on offense alone without the help of the defensive touchdown and the short yardage turnover on the 10 or 11 or whatever that was.
Yeah.
So, I mean, total yardage wise, where we have like
364, I think.
No, we didn't get that high.
Did we not?
I think we were under 330.
Well, we ran for 260 and threw for 70.
I get it.
Yeah, 320,
Yeah,
325.
325. So in most cases, we wouldn't be happy about that. But this season, we've said if we can just control the ball because our defense is so good and keep those guys off the field, that the 300-yard marker probably gets you enough points to win the game. And today, the defense played incredible, could not have played better, and gave up 3 points.
Yeah, they could not play better. You're
I mean,
right.
outside of that field goal drive, they had the third, and like I said, the 3rd and 15 or 16.
And even there, that's a
if
red
you
zone stop.
them on that, then they don't score at all.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times I thought tonight, how many people are watching maybe for the first time an OU game, right? Particularly Bama fans or just national people that it's the game of the week and I'll watch.
Probably since Tennessee.
They had to be watching thinking, this team is 5-5.
Yeah.
Like
It's kind of how I feel about Florida right now.
Yeah.
Right.
Like very similar feeling.
And both of us the same record.
And they got bowl eligible today too.
Yep.
So, do you think how quickly after this victory was Brent Venables on the phone to Fasusi to say, "Did you see what happened?" and celebrate the fact that it was a big
Well,
victory?
he probably didn't answer his phone tonight. But
You don't think so? Yeah, that's probably true.
Well, it sucks that he wasn't
I bet he
here
was
for the
busy.
game. Like, that's a misstep on his part that he went to Texas,
It
Kentucky
is.
when he could have come and watched us bully Alabama on the offensive line.
Well,
You know
I think
what, though?
I think that's what I would leverage is
It
that
could be
don't,
ironic.
don't miss out.
But
Don't.
it could be ironic. Like
Let-
people might be like,
Mm-hmm.
dude,
You're missing
what are
it.
you
Threw the
doing?
hooch on that
You
one.
Don't miss out, dude.
Yeah. What?
Let this be the last time you miss out on the Sooners.
Yes.
I would hope so, and I think I don't know. If you wanted to somehow script a better story for that in particular situation, I don't know how you'd do it, other than maybe Kentucky upsets Texas. But we looked fantastic.
Great atmosphere, great everything. Like, yeah, he missed
So
a lot.
beautiful. He missed a lot of fun atmosphere, which you can't recreate. I'm sure he probably caught some of the game.
On a positive
Right.
note, though, there were still a lot of recruits for this game, and I think myself, particularly, was maybe concerned that we had a lot of recruits coming in for this game.
Absolutely.
So it turns out,
Yep.
it goes the other way.
Very true. Well, let's give a shout out to our wonderful sponsor, Tobacco Exchange. Tobacco Exchange, 3 great locations throughout the metro area. Moore, Oklahoma City, Edmond, great selection, great staff. What are we smoking tonight,
Tonight
Lucas?
we've got a Drew Estates Blackened, which is the Metallica lead singer, James Hetfield, is an avid cigar smoker. I've been to Metallica concerts, and there's certain moments where they have they have the guitar player and the bass player come out and play one of the songs, just the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes off stage to take a cigar break, and he'll literally go smoke a cigar for 5 or 6 minutes during this solo session. And so he decided he was going to start his own cigar label, and Blackened is the name of a Metallica song off of one of their old records.
Yeah.
And they've got I don't know how many they've got. I know they have at least 2 blends, and this is the
It's wonderful.
Shade to Black is what this one's called.
It's very, very good.
We
I like
should
it.
play off another Metallica
Yeah.
song called Fade to Black.
Yeah, I've heard it.
It's a very good smoke.
Yeah, it's very good smoke. Thank you to Tobacco Exchange.
Joey was at the game tonight.
He
So,
was. I wish he would have stopped by.
yeah.
He's gonna be a podcast at some point.
Yeah.
Yes, he will.
He's
He has
talking
been a
about
guest picker.
he was talking about coming tonight, but they didn't make it over.
Yeah.
So we became bowl eligible tonight, something that we knew was possible, but some of us doubted more than others, and
And now it feels
none of
great.
us were real
Now it
confident
feels
on.
great. Like,
It feels so good.
Steve was trying to come up with positives if we did make a bowl.
yeah, so was I, because that
yeah.
was
I
where we were
honestly
at.
think there was some
But
positive to be
yeah,
had.
15 practices for the young kids.
It's huge.
Is a huge benefit.
Well, it's huge in 2 respects. And this was what we said. I said, is it a positive? I didn't say it is. But it would have been if we were just continuing down a disaster path. And we weren't. We've righted the ship somewhat. We're at least not taking on new water, and we're bailing some out. So things are getting better. Depending on who we get at offensive coordinator, that guy could land on campus right away and start working. So even if he can't, we've got, I think, a staff in place who could do positive work with these players. My fear was we've already broken a lot of this. Let's not give them any more time to break it anymore. But I don't think that's happening. I think I'm real confident in their ability to get things better and better and better.
I think it's hard to value how important this win was tonight. Just the perception, the getting bowl eligible, the
momentum,
riding
effect.
the sinking ship, that all of it. It is. Yeah. We might look back on this as an absolutely turning point in the trajectory of, not just for us as fans for the next several years, but Venables as a coach.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah, he needed this win too.
When you can point to a game like this and explain, all these recruits, all these parents know how many players are missing, who's out. We all know it because we're so close to the situation. But to have all that and beat Bama the way we did,
yeah,
the old Lincoln Riley, we're close.
Yeah.
We're not that far off.
Well, and this is so much closer than if you were to have lost this game by some of the scores that we were floating around and thinking were very realistic, where we cover the spread but we lose. And if you lose 24-21, then you're thinking, then it is the old Lincoln Riley, we're close. Whereas this is a message, just like you're saying, to recruits, to parents, but also to fans and donors, to say, guys, this is what we're building here. This is what we can do. This is the next step. And
we were just snake bit.
And who we're gonna get as an offensive coordinator. This is something it's a more positive environment. We were snake bitten this year from the get-go, and it just got worse.
If you're an OC and you were maybe not even thinking about taking this job, I can throw the ball 11 times and
win.
We're gonna beat Alabama.
Yeah. 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 If you wanted better proof of the pudding of here's who you will have on the other side of the ball working for you, and here's what you have to work with, versus if you're coming into
I don't have to be a savant,
right?
On offense.
You don't have to be Lincoln Riley.
Yeah.
You can be really darn good, but you don't have to be completely innovative, changing the game, best offense in history type stuff. You can be just pretty darn good, and we're going to win really big games. If you can be very good, this is championship level football. This is Oklahoma football.
Another part of this for me is we don't look as bad joining the SEC as we would have finishing 1-7.
Yeah,
that would have been super embarrassing.
We might be 3.
I still don't. If we finish 2-6, it's still not great.
Right.
But at least we beat a top 10 team in this conference. We went on the road
and one of the bell cows
and won at a tough place to play. I mean, A&M lost it all.
And if we win next week in Death Valley, that's a
whole different flavor.
That's a way different.
So you win at home, you win at Auburn, and you win at LSU.
We're not taking as much stick from other SEC fans about how you guys weren't ready. You're not SEC quality.
And if you want to talk about stuff, I mean, we can say.
So that at least makes me feel better.
Absolutely.
We should have beaten Missouri.
Right. You should have beaten Missouri.
We were leading Auburn or leading Ole Miss at half. If we play
and we give 3
either of the halves we play today,
away.
If we play either one of these halves today for the second half of Ole Miss,
we win.
We win that game. So then at that point, you're talking going to LSU trying to make the playoffs at 9-3.
Well, you're not going to lose to South Carolina because it didn't take even as much as we're talking about changing the game at Ole Miss to change the composition of that South Carolina game. Yeah. So we were really close, and now we're kind of a
same thing with Tennessee. You have one half that like we had today against Tennessee in the second half.
Yeah.
Probably win that game.
Yeah, a lot to build on.
But it's not all sunshine and rainbows.
It's not. We got a long ways to go, a lot to prove. It's not.
It's been a disappointing season.
I would say that unlike some people who are, I think, just completely out of ignorance or out of spite, saying Brent saved his job tonight, I would disagree, and I think he established where he is tonight. I don't think his job was on the line. I think he was looking at next year going in on the hot seat, and I'm not going to say he's not going to be on the hot seat. Next year is still a make-or-break year for him, but I've got a lot more confidence in where he stands there.
The way the defense looked tonight, it's, you have to give him another year. What he has done to this defense is absolutely remarkable. It is so far from what we had with Alex Grinch.
It's not even the same.
Unrecognizable.
Yeah.
Well, it's unrecognizable in comparison
And we
to
do- and we're-
80% of football.
And we're not even past Grinch's players yet.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, one of Grinch's players had an interception tonight. It's crazy.
So there is a lot of work to be done, but I think we're in a great position to do that work. Um, it's going to be interesting and exciting to see what we're going to do against LSU and what we can. You fear that we go out and we sort of lay the egg one way or the other. It's possible. They've now seen some tape to see what we're going to present. They could adapt, but they are not as good a team as Alabama. And I know it's a tough place to play, that there's lots of tough places to play. Don't get caught up in the fact that it's a tough place to play as if the venue is the only thing that's tough about it. The teams of the past in LSU is what's been tough about it. Norman, Oklahoma is a tough place to play.
I'll say the only
and they don't feel it, but South Carolina and others didn't experience that this year.
I'll say the only difficulty next week compared to this week is we are an elite run defense.
Right.
And we are susceptible of the two to the pass.
True.
And LSU is more of a passing football team.
We also could lose some momentum of what we had to play for tonight.
But
Senior night, bowl eligible.
They also get the ball ran down their throat all year.
Mm-hmm. And that's what we're good at.
So hopefully, we don't go away from.
I mean, USC beat them.
Yeah.
So there's a small chance OU wears red next week.
I just think
That's pretty cool.
Nussmeier and their receivers are better than Milrow and their receivers at throwing.
Yeah,
So,
Nussmeier's a good quarterback.
Well,
It'll be fun.
Gonna be all right. Any predictions
It's
on
gonna
what
be
you
interesting
think?
to see what happens to Tatum because after he fumbled, he didn't play another snap the rest of the game.
No,
Yeah.
Falchuk is number 2
It's gonna be
or Barnes.
Barnes.
Yeah, Barnes might be
too,
back.
I say fear.
Robinson
Xavier
won't
Robinson's
start.
not getting the start.
Robinson won't start.
He's not getting the start.
Yeah.
I don't know why. He just won't.
He won't.
I think he
DeMarco
does
won't
next
do
week.
it.
I think he does next
Barnes will
week.
get it.
I predict he gets the start.
If
I do
Barnes
too.
is healthy, Barnes gets the start.
You say Barnes, I say
The last time
I
Barnes
say
touched
I
the
say
field, he ran for
Robinson,
200
Robinson. What do you
yards.
say?
Barnes.
2 Barnes, 2 Robinsons. Now, if Barnes is out, who gets the start?
Robinson.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just
Not
because you
Falchuk?
can't.
No, you can't.
You just
I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Oh
think
yeah,
it
we
should be
think it's Robinson on
Yeah.
the way.
I could see him going back to Barnes because Barnes' last appearance, he goes for
200.
200.
Yeah, but what if Barnes is 80%? And yeah, he can play, but
I
That's
don't-
just what they
I don't
do.
think I don't think he should start.
It's just what DeMarco does.
100%.
Yeah, I
But
don't.
DeMarco will start.
It's weird. There's something going on there. Predictions on what the line will be. I haven't looked at anything. Has anybody looked at anything? I'm gonna say 2.5.
Before today,
I was going to say 3.5.
6 or 7, but with
I'm
the
gonna say
win,
3.5.
yeah, it'll be 2.5, 3.
I'll say 4 LSU by 4.
Basically, a home field advantage.
Yeah, exactly. Basically just home field advantage. And we'll see. LSU is a very up and down team. So
It'll be their senior night too.
it will be their senior night. If I'm wanting to position these games, they're coming out the way I'd want them. Alabama at home, LSU on the road. Maybe better if it was flipped in terms of order, but I don't know. It'd be pretty hard if you had lost at LSU. That
Brian Kelly might be coaching for his job.
he might be, or at least
I don't know how big
coaching.
his buyout is.
If he's not coaching for his job, he's coaching for positioning on how hot his seat will be next year. He'll either enter with a hot seat or a really hot seat. I definitely think he's in a make or break situation, just like probably Brent Venables is, and maybe worse, actually. And part of that's the LSU mindset and the atmosphere there, where they've got weird, unrealistic expectations. I don't know how you make the people happy. They just
Visceral.
they're very intolerant of
Yeah.
a lot of things. It's very strange. I'm glad.
Yeah,
we're
and Brent's
not
got a
that way.
luxury of, I mean, his ties to the university already. Like Brian Kelly doesn't have that.
That's true. That's
So-
a good point.
Yeah, he's an outsider there for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though he tries to change his dialect and say family.
He code switches. Everybody
And they're
code
doing the
switches.
weird,
Everybody does
the
it.
videos where he's with the recruit standing.
Some people are better
God,
than
the
others.
dancing video.
360
But he does.
camera. Oh, they're so
Cringe.
cringe.
It is so cringe.
Man.
Well, what's really cringe about it to me is that it's not authentic.
It's not authentic
Yeah.
at all.
It's just so fake.
So fabricated.
Yeah, he's not Ed Orgeron, that's for sure.
Now,
Ed
so
Orgeron was an LSU guy.
there's some interesting things going on.
They ended up hating him.
Coaching carousel. We talked about it a little bit in the midweek. So Indiana goes out and just gets thumped. So they're in a weird situation. I know they just made a big extension and increase to the contract, but it's going to be interesting to see what he wants to do. I mean,
I was thinking that today. Like, what is
Stupid.
do you think that he's going to take an offer 3 weeks before the season's over? Like, just wait.
Yeah, just wait.
Just wait.
well, I don't know. I don't know if it's necessarily that bad.
They just re-signed him.
No,
No,
that's
but
what I'm saying. But why?
Why now?
Why do it?
I think it makes sense. I see why you do that. You give that because the momentum's there to do it then. And if you're looking at it strategically, the same reason that Scott Frost got fired before the Oklahoma game, if he goes out and gets beat bad by Ohio State, it's harder to get that done. And you want to do that. Now, for him strategically, if
Well,
I'm thinking about,
maybe you can get him for less though.
I don't think so. Probably not. And if you're deciding this is where we want to be, you're hoping he agrees that that's the fit. And I don't know if it is. I don't know. It's like Indiana's Indiana. How good is Indiana going to be? How good
Especially
is
when you lose all your James Madison players.
how much recruiting are you going to get? What donor base are you really going to tap into? They've got a ceiling that they're going to bump up against, and he's got to think about that. And he might get himself into a situation where he'll never be as hot as he is right now.
Right. Right.
So I understand why they move the way they move, and I don't know if that's enough to keep him there if the right job comes open. But as we mentioned before, there's not a lot of jobs that appear to be open or that are going to open. So I don't know.
7 top 20 teams lost today.
Wow.
That's a crazy.
It felt like that kind of day.
Yep.
I was texting with
Every year there's a week where something like this happens, and
Love to be a part of it.
It's usually about 3 or 4 weeks left in the season, and this year it was 2 weeks left. It was the week before the last week.
Well, this is very similar to when LSU won the national title that year with 2 losses, where it's chaos reigned. And now we've got a 12-team playoff where that was BCS times and just 2 top teams would face each other. But it does shake up that 12-team group. It's going to be an interesting horse race to see who can get in there and who doesn't.
Well, I was texting with one of our listeners, and he said something along the lines of, how our game was going to go tonight. And I said, well, if it's anything like how the rest of the today is, I feel pretty good.
Yeah.
And he was like, what's happened today around the country has something to do with our game. I said, oh, but it does. Because when there's a lot, because at this time, Penn State was down. And
how do they keep pulling it out?
I don't know. They had a great fake punt with like 2 minutes to go in the game on 4th and 1 from their own 30.
Wow.
Saved it.
Wow.
Ballsy play. But it was just one of those deals where it's every, the favorite, the ranked teams, they were all struggling for the most part.
Yeah.
And it's just how it goes. We're just not usually the team that
does the upset
benefits from this.
Yeah, usually we're the one getting upset.
We're like worried about you see all this stuff go down and you're like, oh man, we better show up tonight.
Yeah.
Or it's gonna happen to us.
Yeah.
We just happen to be on the other side.
Well,
and I don't go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was gonna say I don't think we have to worry about a little bit of criticism or lack of give us credit, whereas Alabama overlooked us. I don't think that's the case. Where sometimes, and a lot of these teams they got overlooked. I think very similar to Ole Miss, Florida, Alabama, Oklahoma was a bad setup for the other team, not in the terms exactly of a trap game, but maybe a trap game of a different flavor. In both cases, you're playing a very talented team at home that is much better than their record. And they probably knew that as well. I think both Ole Miss and Alabama knew that. And yet we came out and delivered and did what we needed.
You can even throw Auburn into that.
Oh, yeah. Another team that's better than their record.
A team that,
Kansas did it to Colorado.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of self-destruction with Auburn. And we've done it too. We're one of those teams also that just seems to beat ourselves a lot. Auburn, is a good defensive team. They're actually very good on offense, and it's usually turnovers for them and dumb decisions by their coach or penalties that's cost them. And same thing, A&M was, man, that coach is gonna have a hard time living that down. Did you see his press conference earlier this week? I don't know, Tuesday, he had a slip up and he said, we're focused on one team and one team only, and that's Texas. He goes, I mean, Auburn.
Well, somebody asked him.
Yeah.
They did a leading question where they said, you know, you've had this time to prepare, you guys. You got the big rivalry coming up next week against Texas. Does that shift any of your attention to it? Blah blah blah. And then since the guy just said Texas, he literally Freudian slipped it and said,
Good.
We spent the week focusing on one thing only, and that's Texas.
I hope it's true, and I hope they beat Texas. That's another team who
but
is
he
set up for
will not live that down.
No, absolutely. That's a bad slip. And a bad position to make that slip up because of where they are positionally. That was a bad loss for them. But yeah, there was a lot of teams and that's the SEC, and the SEC is so good, almost top to bottom. I mean,
I call it a mini NFL.
It's incredible.
The cannibalism's crazy.
Yeah,
it's wild.
I don't know.
And you're gonna have.
I don't think the SEC's ever been as good as it's been.
No, gonna have to change. You're gonna have to change the college football playoff is going to have to change.
Yes,
because the best teams are not going to be in it.
Well, and we're going to have teams in it that have won a championship that would be upper middle in these two conferences.
Oh,
and in the ACC and the Big 12 case, you're probably talking lower middle.
Yeah,
middle to lower.
Yeah.
Like.
You cannot tell me Arizona State and Iowa State would be sniffing anything in this league.
Yeah.
Name any of them, yeah. I mean, no one in the Big 12.
I mean, maybe Miami.
Clemson, Miami have the talent rosters.
Not if they had to run through that schedule, though.
No, but they'd have 3 or 4 losses.
Yeah. At least, yes. Yeah. I mean, Miami should have 2 more if it wasn't for officiating.
Yeah.
And that's against very bad opponents.
Yeah, they're so overranked right now.
So that's kind of shaping up to be an obvious problem.
And there's a lot of national podcasters and writers that
you listen to other podcasts.
Are on that boat. Well, they listen to us, so I feel obligated to listen to them.
That's very nice.
But they've been saying the same thing. Like, what are we going to do about the disparity in the schedule? Because the Big Ten was super smart. Maybe it's just by accident, but not having Penn State and Oregon and them like have all these crossover games where they just beat each other up, the top teams.
Well, I think what you do, I don't.
But how do you gauge that? Like, how do you gauge Indiana's 100th ranked schedule? The only real team they played, they get thumped. I still take Ole Miss over Indiana.
And that's actually, you're looking at Big Ten versus SEC.
And that's the next
conference.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it from a strategic standpoint of the 2 top conferences, and I'm saying what I would do, I would approach it as we're going to continue to have, and we've got to have, a lot of good teams play each other. I don't think we can get into a game where we're going to try to maneuver it, because who knows who is going to be that good in a given year. And I would actually lean into it and say, let's have an SEC versus Big Ten rivalry.
I think
and have more of those go on, and let's just set ourselves apart. But say we're going to ignore the rest of football.
Well, I would say the thing is, if you have an SEC versus Big Ten non-con setup, that doesn't really help them.
I think it does. I think
you're still fighting with the Big 12s and the ACCs who don't have.
I think it's a long-term thing. I think it's 2 things. One, I think you get respect by the fact that you've played really tough competition and you've been on TV. You're going to be game of the week every week with one of your teams from the conference. And the other thing is the long-term 3-year, 5-year outlook is it makes it very clear this is real football at the top level of college versus these other things. And it starts to separate those. And if you go to the negotiating table, however you want to do it, if you want to say we want to break apart and we're going to be our own league, or if you're going to say, look, we're going to have to change the playoff structure. Either we add 2 teams and they're going to, because we need more teams in, or we get rid of the automatic conference qualification or whatever it needs to be, but something has to give here.
Has to.
Because Boise State and whoever's going to win out of the Big 12 and SMU or whoever's going to win out of the ACC, these are just not teams that can compete at the top level of college football.
Yep.
And they might for one game.
Right. Yeah. Don't blow up when they win a game.
Yeah.
And they get an upset.
But they're not gonna. They're not gonna win three.
No.
They're not gonna win three through the playoffs to win the national.
They're not gonna. It's not gonna happen.
It's almost a 0%.
It'd be stupid, fluky, and it'd be bad for the sport if it did happen.
Yeah. There's almost. I mean, there's a 1% chance that the national champion is not a Big Ten or SEC.
That I don't know if it's that low, but it's really low.
It's low.
It's really low. You're right.
Low.
It's like, yeah.
I mean, can you
25
see Arizona State or Iowa State winning
3 games?
3 games? No.
No, it's not going to happen.
Clemson, maybe Clemson.
Maybe Clemson.
If they even get in.
It's a big maybe.
Yeah.
It's a big maybe.
I mean, Miami's not. They should have lost 2 or 3 of their games.
Yeah.
On flukes already this year.
Well,
they're going to get in.
Like I said, yeah. Well, not to bright side it too much, but never glad to lose. But I'm kind of glad we're not in a position where we're going to be one of these bubble teams that doesn't get in, and we're frustrated by the fact that we know we're better than these other teams, and yet we're not getting into the playoff. That's really frustrating. I mean, I'd rather have won more games and be there, but still there's a bright silver lining to at least we're not in that frustration point that some of these teams rightfully will be in. Alabama probably got eliminated from the playoff tonight, and they're very close to it. Ole Miss, same story.
Yeah.
At least one of the 2 of them did.
I mean,
and that sucks for them.
We have twice as many top 25 victories as Texas.
Yeah.
And they're like a shoo-in.
Yeah, talk about that. Yeah, exactly. So if anybody, if any team we need to be frustrated with, it's probably Texas and the schedule they got, the draw they got.
They're just trash.
We've been griping about for 6-9 months, and
Gosh,
here it comes again.
And then they get it next year.
Yep.
Which is completely countered what they said they were going to do.
Now that might,
and we get Michigan.
that might work out in a way though, because if we're better, we're going to get the marginal nod above them. So if we're both sitting there 9-3, our 9-3 is going to look a lot better than their 9-3, a lot better, especially if we've beaten them. So even if we lose to them, depending on who they lose to, so I think you get respect for the fact that you played a really difficult schedule, but unfortunately, sometimes you don't get enough respect, and you can't overcome the fact that losses are losses. And at least in the eyes of a lot of voters, they can't overlook a 10-2 or an 11-1. And that's all they see.
Right.
And that's frustrating.
But really, how do you gauge, honestly, how do you gauge the Indiana versus the Ole Miss schedule?
One is really tough and the other's not hard at all.
I mean, there's got to be, it's got to sit on eye test.
I know, but it's so
How far
hard.
do they fall?
Indiana, they were 9, probably 15.
At least, right?
I bet they don't. I don't know.
Well,
I mean,
a lot of
other teams that got beat.
They're one loss.
They're one game.
But that is one thing nationally they're saying about Indiana. It's like their strength of schedule is trash.
Who do they have?
Like that's why they're justifying them not moving up in the college football playoff.
Wisconsin. Who they got?
Rivalry game would be
Illinois, maybe?
Purdue.
Maybe.
It might be Purdue.
I bet you.
Actually.
So does that lock up Ohio State?
1-10 Purdue.
Ohio State, Oregon, and
Yeah.
No, I think
Indiana-
Penn State
Indiana,
has a
Purdue.
chance still.
well, also if Michigan somehow knocked off Ohio State, that'd be 2
That
losses.
gets so messy. It's so crazy.
Indiana would get in over Ohio State in that scenario.
No, Penn State.
No, Penn State's only got 1 loss in conference.
No,
No,
they're undefeated
they
in
have none.
conference.
Oh, they have none?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, so it's
So
more than likely. Well, if Penn State loses and Ohio State wins, Ohio State
Was Oregon on bye today?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oregon's got Washington next week, though. So I mean, who knows?
Pac-12 rivalry.
Penn State has Maryland.
State's getting in there.
who does Indiana have?
There's only two top 25 matchups.
Indiana does have Purdue.
Yes.
Well, I don't know. It's going to be very interesting. Let's go back to our game just to conclude. Awesome victory. It feels so good. It feels so good not to have barely won, not to have had to hold on.
Well, that's why I said we don't beat teams like that. We don't beat teams with margins of victory like that.
We destroyed
We
them.
don't do that.
We put them away.
We beat their ass.
I texted you guys at halftime and said, we're going to get our hearts broken. We scored the touchdown right before half to go 10-3.
To go up 7.
I said,
Just like Ole
this
Miss.
is where we get our heart broken. I told Nolan
Yep.
when that second half started, I said, we need a turnover right here on this first Alabama
I told Mac
possession
the same thing.
to keep the momentum.
I told him the
and
same
then
thing.
bam, Eli Bowen picks that off and
Player of the game.
we're
Well,
set.
Well, I said the same thing. And in fact, what we were sharing about we're going to get our hearts broken was just a faint glimmer of my other text group and everybody piling on and the first one to say how bad it was going to get, how quickly it was going to get. Because we all felt it. We just knew.
Yeah.
And even at that, not only did none of that happen, we didn't hold on and win and survive an onside kick and win by 3 points, any of that kind of stuff. And that's old Lincoln Riley level stuff. We beat them, and we beat them all the way down.
Yeah, it was only stressful.
We didn't give them a chance.
It was only
suffocated
stressful because we were all waiting on the other shoe to drop.
right.
But that was the only reason it was stressful.
We have no idea
From a
what
game perspective, it was not stressful.
the
at all.
Alabama fans were feeling such pain and misery. They were feeling what we were fearing
Yes.
that we would be feeling.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
felt the whole time.
Oh yeah, other SEC teams that have been in the conference for much longer, those fans sit around 24-3 and they're not worried at all. They're like,
Yeah.
this is over.
Yeah.
This is the SEC. We're
Yeah.
not losing this lead.
Right.
Like,
This is what we've
This
been
is
waiting
gonna happen.
3 years for.
Uh-huh.
Truly. Like 3 seasons, this is what we've been waiting for.
Well, and remember the Alabama Georgia game and how it went this year,
Mhm.
which was they couldn't put them away, came back right at the end, and they almost took care of business and ended it, with a victory, but didn't. Just amazing and awesome to actually be able to from start to finish with few stutters in between, finish them off and achieve victory the way we did.
what's so wild too is as much as we thought we should have and needed that win at Missouri to get bowl eligible.
Yeah.
I wouldn't trade
No.
that game for this one.
No.
At all.
No.
Like it's
No,
I don't
no,
know.
no,
It's
no.
hard to place a value on it, but there is some sort
Because
of
that was a sloppy
extreme
that would have been a
value.
sloppy win. That would have been
A win we
win
didn't
that
deserve.
We didn't deserve. We didn't
Right.
earn it.
But I mean, to win that game and get bowl eligible, we all would have been like,
Happy.
thank God
Yeah,
we won, we beat them, we got bowl eligible, and then lose tonight's game.
Yeah.
It's totally different to win tonight.
Now, had we won that game, if we hold on the way we should have, and then do what we did tonight, we'd be happier and in a better position. And that speaks to, we know we have work to do. Not everything's right yet. We're not where we want to be, but boy, this is just awesome.
Feels great.
To get to where we've gotten.
I'm glad I was there.
I'm glad we were there. I'm glad we were able to do the pod tonight. Looking forward to a midweek from the road. I'll be in Vegas. I said if we win the game, I'm going to Vegas. I'm putting it all on OU to win the national championship next year in person. It's going to be awesome. We'll have probably a truncated midweek pod for you out there, and then we'll be back for the post game against LSU. We got a lot more to cover. It's not over, and we're going to be covering a bowl game too this year. We're not going to be sitting around
More
talking
podcasts,
about
baby.
people. More podcasts, more celebration, hopefully.
Celebration.
Well, until then, Boomer.
Sooner.